tried it.
Alright, today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make a flan. What is a flan? A flan is a traditional Hispanic custard dish. It comes in a lot of different varieties. For example, there's a flan de leche, which is a flan made of cheese and is more similar to cheesecake. Today I'm going to be making a flan de leche. It's a flan made from milk. Okay? Every family has their own recipe on how to make a flan. My family was no different. It got passed down to my mom. She passed it down to me before she passed. One thing about my mom was she made a pretty good flan, and everybody always wanted her recipe. But because it was a family secret, whenever somebody would ask her for a recipe, she would change up an ingredient or two, and people would come back to her and say, it didn't come out quite as good as yours did, but it was still pretty good. So my mom told me to do the same thing. If I ever needed to give out the recipe, change an ingredient or two to make it a little different so it wouldn't be the same family recipe. So today, instead of making the traditional flan, I'm going to be making a low-calorie, less sugar version of flan. Okay. So the first thing you need to do when you're making a flan is you start out with 1 cup of sugar, which you'll be making your caramel out of. Now, in a traditional flan, you would be using sugar in the dish as well, but we're going to be making this a low-calorie, low-sugar version. So instead of using sugar, today we're using Splenda. You need 5 eggs. I'll be using 1 can of fat-free evaporated milk, 1 can of fat-free condensed milk, and we'll be using 3 teaspoons of vanilla. So to start with, you're going to preset your oven to 355 degrees. While that's getting warm, you can go ahead and start your caramel. Now, you take your caramel, you want to use a heavy bottom pan and set your oven to low to medium heat. Now you're going to want to stir this continuously while you're doing it, because if your sugar burns, the dish is ruined and you're going to have to start over. So what you want to do is you want to get your caramel to a golden honey color. Okay? Like so. Okay. Now once your caramel is done, you can go ahead and start with the rest of your ingredients. You'll start with your 5 eggs, and you're going to want to beat these gently to get them started. Okay, now once your eggs are beaten, you can add the rest of your ingredients. So we have 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of Splenda, can of evaporated milk, a can of condensed milk, and we're going to add 3 teaspoons of vanilla. Okay. Now again, you're going to want to beat these together. Now in order to save time, I've taken these steps in advance. So we're going to pour this into our bowl. Now the trick to any custard dish is a double boiler. For those of you that don't understand what a double boiler is, you don't want to put this directly into the oven. If you put this directly into the oven, you're going to end up with a frittata and not a custard dish. So you take your dish, you place it inside of another baking pan, and you're going to want to add water to it. The water will keep it moist while it's cooking. You want to fill it up about halfway up the side of your baking dish. Okay? Now your oven's preset, and you're going to put this into your oven. Place it in your oven, and it's going to cook for about 50 minutes at 355. Okay? Once it's done, you're going to want to take it out of the oven, and to test it, you'll stick a knife in the middle of your custard dish. Okay? Once it's set for an hour and it's completely done, the next important step is to flip. Okay. Now, I always give a nice tap to try to get it loose from the sides. and today's not cooperating, so we're gonna just move on to the next step, okay? Once it's done and you've taken it out, it's still not ready to eat yet because the custard hasn't completely settled yet. If you decide to try to cut it at this point, it's gonna fall apart on you. So you wanna stick it in the refrigerator for about 1 hour to 2 hours. The longer you keep it in the fridge, the better, the longer it'll set. After about 2 hours, you'll have a nice, perfect flan. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Can you pass them?
How long was it? 5:25?